Shabbat Shalom.
When the rabbi is away, I guess anything will happen.
So, welcome. The rabbi is not only out of town, out of the country, leading a group of community members through an amazing tour of Spain. And so it is a lay-led service tonight. So members of our community will be contributing their energies as we go through the Shabbat service. We're going to start with a song that you will find on page 24. And it is called the Chunaranana. The meaning basically, go forth singing the songs of joy to the eternal. And what a great way to start off with the song. The Chunaranana, the Chunaranana, the Chunaranana, Adonai. The Chunaranana, the Chunaranana, the Chunaranana, Adonai. Naria, Naria, Litzuri Shenu, Nekadma Pana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Litzuri Shenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Naria, Naria, Litzuri Shenu, Nekadma Pana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Litzuri Shenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai. Lechunaranana, 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 Adonai.
Was definitely much better to wait until after that beautiful song was finished. My name is Barry Ryan Tuneman. Is this mic in a good spot? Okay. I'm Barry Ryan Tuneman. My husband and children and I have been members of Bet Aleph for the past 2 years. And then my husband and I were members a long time ago in 2004 and 2005. I'm very happy to be here tonight and participate in this lay-led Shabbat, and I'm going to talk with you about Shabbat itself. So that beautiful song and moving into the energies of Shabbat, it always, for me, just feels like this big relief and breath of fresh air. But I have to be honest with you all and say that I haven't always felt that way about Shabbat. I grew up in a Reform Jewish home, and in our home, celebrating Shabbat was kind of a we'll celebrate when we feel like it type of experience. And we would have a nice Shabbat dinner and light candles and have wonderful discussion around the dinner table. But as soon as Saturday rolled around, Shabbat was considered to be over, and everyone would go back to their busy lives and all of their activities. And it's really only been for me within the last few years that I personally decided to step into my own practice of Shabbat. It's been a practice I've taken on as part of my personal growth and as a way to deepen my own emunah or faith and my own relationship with the divine. You see, when I was growing up and I went through Hebrew school and all the preparation for my bat mitzvah, I really had no idea what Shabbat was supposed to be about. I was just kind of going through the motions, really. I didn't understand that Hashem has actually given us an opportunity every single week of our entire lives to stop and to rest. That it's actually like this opportunity for a spiritual retreat. You know, I used to pay lots of money to go on these spiritual retreats and go away for the weekend. And I didn't realize our own tradition actually provides the same thing for us. It's an opportunity, has been for me, to really step off of the busy hamster wheel of my life and just let it all go. During the past couple of years, I've really experimented with what it would mean like for me, what it would be like for me to do precisely that, to go on retreat in my own home and with my own family. I have stopped driving except for to and from services. I've disconnected from all kinds of technology and media except for using it for Torah study. I've refrained from writing or creating. I light candles every Friday night and participate in Havdalah to mark the end of Shabbat on Saturday evening. And I have to be honest that at first making all of these changes was not that easy, especially putting my phone away for a full 25 hours and turning it off and letting everybody I know that you're not going to be able to reach me. I'm just unreachable for this amount of time. But I want to share with you what I have noticed by doing this and participating in this process for the last number of years. When we get to Havdalah, my husband and I, at the end of Shabbat, I realize that when I smell those spices, there is that sweetness of Shabbat that I'm actually sad to let go of. And that my job is to take that sweetness of Shabbat and bring it with me into the rest of my week. I've realized that allowing myself a full 25 hours of rest, relaxation, reflection, participation in Jewish practice and study every single week has really changed me. I feel so much more open to gratitude, to joy, much more aware of awe in my daily life. And I feel so much better prepared to go into each and every week. And when tough things come up during the week, I know I can count on Shabbat, that it's coming, and I'm going to have an opportunity to let it all go again. I feel so much more connected to Hashem, and I have more trust that things are just going to work out somehow, even if I don't know how they're going to work out. Oops. The Talmud tells us that Shabbat is an experience of 1/60th of the world to come. How fortunate we are that we get to experience this sacred time each and every week. Our tradition also tells us that we receive an extra soul on Shabbat. So what I'd like to invite you all to do with me in this moment is to see if you can just let go of your week, even if it's just a little bit. And I'd like to invite you to make some space inside to welcome that extra soul of Shabbat in and let it enter. How might each one of us step into more of our own practice of Shabbat this week? And what new discoveries await each and every one of us if we do? Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And now I'm going to talk about our tzedakah recipient. I think I'm losing the mic here. Okay, so there is a tzedakah box in the back if you're here in person. If you're joining us online, there is a tab to go to on our website for tzedakah. Our tzedakah recipient for this month is the Joint Distribution Committee. Those of you that are here, if you can, feel free to get up now and drop off your tzedakah if you'd like. The Joint Distribution Committee is a leading global Jewish humanitarian organization. The JDC has responded to the still spiking distress and humanitarian needs in Ukraine. The JDC is on the ground providing aid to those Jews remaining in Ukraine and the thousands of refugees who have fled to neighboring countries. They're doing some incredible work on the ground in a very, very difficult time. Okay, I'd like to invite our candle lighters for tonight to come up and join us.
Nasim shalom tova uvaracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Nasim shalom tova uvaracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim.
Let the light of your presence be the light of our lives. Grant us happiness, mercy, and peace. May the people of Israel join hands with the world, and our passion for justice increase. Nasim shalom tova uvaracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Nasim shalom tova uvaracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Let the light of your Torah be the light of our lives. Grant us goodness, grant us blessings and love. May our yearning for peace be a blessing for the world as the olive branch soars with the dove. Nasim shalom tova uvaracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Nasim shalom tova uvaracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim.
Okay, so we have candle lighters tonight. Carol Grant is lighting a candle tonight to celebrate her upcoming milestone 65th birthday. Yay, on May 24th. She is also lighting in gratitude for her niece Rachel, who has moved to Seattle. Oh, that's so beautiful. And we'll be attending tonight's service. They're there together. Yes. And Celia Curran is lighting a candle in celebration of the sale of her house. Mazal tov. They are thrilled with the offer They close on Monday and have moved into a beautiful new apartment in Newcastle. Wonderful. And we have virtual candle lighters as well. We have Bernice Tasman Diaz, and she is lighting a candle for her mother, Anna Gilbert Tansman, on her 29th yard site. We have Janice Meadow. Janice Meadow is lighting a candle in memory of her father, Donald Meadow, who made his transition on April 24th in South Bend, Indiana. Her dad was 89 and had suffered with advanced Parkinson's. He will be deeply missed by Jan's mother, Sherry, her siblings, and the 7 grandchildren who brought him great joy. He will live in their hearts forever. It's beautiful. Linda A. Morris is lighting a candle for Kate Elias. Kate tested positive for COVID the night before her Spain trip. Oh, how heartbreaking. She was so much of the spirit and soul of the journey through Spain. I know that Kate's in all of our hearts as well, too.
The blessing for the candles is on the top of page 1, not the top of page 1, but close to the top of page 1. And we cover our eyes to remind ourselves that the light that emanates from the candles is an outward representation of the light that is emanating within us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Thank you, and thank you, Barry. That was just delightful. We're going to sing a song that you will find on page 29. And it is a round. We're going to sing all 3 elements through, and then we're going to break into a round, and you can join either of us at any point. Shabbat shalom umevorach. Shabbat shalom umevorach. Shir hama'alot v'shuv Adonai et shivat Zion hayinu kecholmim. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shir hama'alot v'shuv Adonai et shivas Zion hayinu kecholim. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Claire Petersky, and I'm here just to kind of help us through this center portion of our Shabbat service. And we're going to go pretty soon here into the Baruch Hu. And the Baruch Hu is a reminder of what I would say is a universal field of blessing. And what we are called to do first off is to bless the eternal, which is kind of an interesting thought, because who are we as ordinary human beings to be sending blessings to God? I mean, that's what we're called to do here. But at the same time, we're also, then the next line, we're reminded that the divine is also blessed, just ordinarily, and that also it is generating its own eternal field of blessing. So it's almost like a big circle that we're all in. We're like all mutually, we as human beings are generating, but there's also something higher that is also generating blessings. And we're just doing this in a big, energetic oomph, if that makes sense. So I would like you, as you go forward to do the Baruch Hu, where we will rise very shortly, to, when you stand, just take a pause and feel within yourself that feeling of blessing that you're going to be generating. Or, if that's too much for you tonight, because sometimes it can be, then just be in a mode of receiving, because you are also the recipient of the one who is blessing eternally. So everybody, please rise. And together.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Bless the Eternal, the one who is blessing. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Blessed is the Eternal, the one who is blessing eternally.
You may be seated. I am all of a sudden reminded of when Rabbi Ted was our rabbi at Beit Aleph, and he said that he, at one point or another, he realized the only power that he really had as a rabbi was to get everybody to either stand up or sit down. So I'm enjoying just a little bit of that power. I've also been, I feel like somehow they've invited me to go back again and speak before you, and I always wonder if they know what they're getting themselves into. But I'm going to talk mostly in this little thing here, in this section, actually about the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. And I know that when we are here at Beit Aleph, we usually have, the rabbi usually talks about the Shema, and he talks about it rather extensively, right? The Shema is super important, don't get me wrong. It is the watchword of our faith. I never knew what that meant, but I heard that phrase a lot when I was a kid. Or as Olivier puts it, the central mantra of Judaism. It's cool. But since indeed he made the mistake, Olivier did, of allowing me up here, I'm not going to talk that much about the Shema. Instead, I'm going to mostly talk about what follows it, which we have a tendency just to kind of rattle off. It's sort of like the B side of a hit single. You know, like the Shema is the A side, that's the hit single that we all, know and we love, and what comes on the air, we get, oh, yeah, that's my tune. And then the other side is the Baruch Shem Kavod, and we're like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And because it gets kind of forgotten, I wanted to spend more time on it since I had this opportunity to speak to you. So, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You have Olivier's translation in your prayer book, and so you can look at that. I think it's on page, oh Lordy be, page 6. Thank you. I appreciate that for those who are paying attention. When I had the Union Prayer Book as a kid, for those who might have grown up in a more classical Reformed congregation, the translation we got was not Olivier's, which I think Olivier's is, what is it? Blessed is the name who the splendor of its presence shines eternally, is what you should have in your prayer book. And out of the Union Prayer Book that we used when I was a kid, it was, praised be his name whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. Or I'm going to try and translate each word, and I was the original Hebrew school dropout. My mom is actually here tonight. She can testify. I did not complete my Hebrew school education. But if I understand, so if I'm wrong on this translation, I'm sure, certainly Olivier will tell you, and you can even raise your hand and say, Peterski, you've got it wrong. But I believe it is blessed, that's Baruch, Shem is name, Kavod is glory, Malchuto, kingdom, Leolam Va'ed is world unending, right? Okay. So, Baruch Shem, blessed is the name. We just did the Baruch Hu, right? Where we blessed the divine and we accepted the divine's blessings all over us. And I want to say then that that's not what this is about, because we just did that, right? So this is not about blessing the name. We're not blessing God here. We're blessing the name. And I was just like, what? Why are we blessing a name? We're not blessing God. It's not Adonai. It's a name. What's that about? I want to start off with first suggesting to you that the name of God is not the same as God itself, right? As it was written in the Tao Te Ching, the Tao that can be spoken of is not the eternal Tao. As soon as we reduce it, whether it is something we label God, we label it Tao, we label it Allah, Adonai, whatever that label is, that name that we stick on, as soon as we reduce it to a word, now it's no longer the infinite, right? Because we've now reduced it to something that we can conceptualize in our human brains, and we can put a label on it. It's no longer that which is indeed eternal, that which is indeed infinite. It is now something human, rational, conceptualized. It's a human idea of what it is. So what are we saying when we're blessing the name? I spent a lot of time thinking about this. Like, why are we blessing a name and not God itself? Okay, we're going to get to the Shema. I promise you. We will get to the Shema, and when we say the Shema, we affirm that, and I'm going to use the label of Tao because I like that better than Adonai. It works for me better. up to you. We can all get to use our own little the names. When we recite the Shema, we affirm that the Tao is both an undifferentiated wholeness that includes everything. And it also manifests as the reality which we experience, which is differentiated into an infinite number of things, right? And that's in the translation that Olivier has for us of the Shema, we are affirming that thing, that it manifests as all that is, and it is one. This is the koan, the holy contradiction that is contained in the Shema, that each one of us experiences the divine differently and in our billion ways as human beings, and that the universe is seemingly made up of billions of things, whether that's particles of dust or grains of sand or animals and plants or the stars scattered through the galaxy. It appears to be infinite in all its little differentiatedness. And it also, at the exact same moment, it contains all of that, is an integrated wholeness of all of that. And that is something that we cannot fathom, cannot truly understand in our rational minds. We cannot truly understand it in our rational minds, but we have no choice to think daily in our rational minds, because we live in reality, we live on the physical plane, we deal with words and thoughts all freaking day long. So that's why we use a label like God, like Tao, like Allah, like Adonai. And here we are blessing that label. And I guess this is why. Because we do live here on the physical plane, using language and our rational minds. And if we are God wrestlers, if we are Yisrael, which means God wrestler, if we're the ones that are wrestling and engaging with the divine, as human beings, at least for now, we need language. We need labels. And so with the first two words of the statement, Baruch Shem, we're affirming that using a name for God is okay. And I realize at this point, I've probably already taken up way more than my allotted time. According to this, I get 3 minutes, and Lord knows, I've done more than that. So I'm not going to even go into the craziness of kavod, which I did also spend some time thinking about. What the heck is glory? And how do we, as egalitarian feminists, deal with malchuto, which means kingdom? This will have to be taken up the next time the rabbi goes somewhere on vacation or a retreat, and I'll do 2 more words of this. Yeah, what can I say, man? So here we are, ready to affirm the contradiction that it is all, everything, every being, infinite in its variety, and also it is just one thing, just one unified field of being. And then also, it's not just okay, but it's blessed that we use our minds, we participate, we begin this journey of God wrestling and coming to deeper and deeper understandings. And with that, I will have you stand for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, the eternal manifests as all that is, the eternal is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is the name, the splendor of its presence shines eternally. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. And we now turn to the V'ahavta, which is on page 6 as well.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
Thank you, Claire. I cannot wait to hear the rest of that. I cannot wait, because I did not grow up with the Union, what did you call it? The Union prayer book. So when you're saying that to me, I'm like, what? Can't wait to hear that, Claire. So we're actually going to count the Omer right now. If you have the insert, yep, we're still on that Omer journey. So I found Rabbi Ted's book, Journey of Awakening, the Kabbalistic Meditations on the Tree of Life, where he literally, like, there's day 6, he literally goes through each day talking about not only what the daily Sifra is, but that is contained in the weekly Sifra, like concentric circles. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the day that we're on, which I won't mention yet because we haven't said the prayer yet. And as I read this, I'll make sure I don't say that number. But it is calling for a day of rejoicing in the journey, almost at the end of the 5th week. And if we're to look back now, stepping out from the old enslavement is further and further behind us. And a lot has happened. We're moving more deeply into the greater adventure of our being. This day of the journey brings Yesod into Hod. into the Sifra, expressing sensation and perception, we bring the Sifra of our own individual identity. Yesod carries the energies of the ego self with which we must continually interact in our world. I always like thinking of the ego self, there's a negative connotation with the word ego, egocentric, egoist, right? Egomaniac, that it's a negative thing. Now, when you study the different theorists, Freud, Jung, for Jung especially, ego was kind of like the eggshell. It was the skin that kind of held us together. The ego self is that skin that kind of holds us together. So the daily focus for this particular day that we're entering in the Omer, kind of the thoughts to carry with you. Today I become more sensitive to the ways in which my sensations and perceptions influence my identity, where some of that ego energy lies. Behind every particular sensation is a freely flowing, vital energy. And when it talks about every particular sensation, there's one of the techniques in mindfulness where you're supposed to spend some time focusing on each of the 5 senses. What am I hearing right now? The traffic, even the building creaks a little bit. Now that we actually have sun. Taking a moment, what am I seeing right now? Taking a moment to, what am I kinesthetically feeling right now? My feet in my shoes, my bum on the chair, the clothing. What am I smelling right now? What am I tasting right now? That exercise is to bring your mind away from the cacophony that's swirling around us to the present moment through the 5 senses. So behind every particular sensation is a freely flowing vital energy. Every perception is simply one container through which that energy can be experienced. I am always more than my perceptions. I am also a channel for the energies of a universe. So, the day that we are going to focus on follows 33 and precedes 35. We are going to say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Blessed One, you are the emptiness that manifests as form, the source of all that is. You sanctify us through our performing holy deeds and give us the practice of counting the days of Omer. Today is the 34th day, comprising of 4 weeks, everyone's doing their math, 4 weeks and 6 days. Amen. So what we're going to engage in now is a music and movement experience. I originally was going to call it a meditation, but the word meditation can be confusing. Some people associate meditation with this, which is great. That is one manifestation of meditation. But circling back to mindfulness, in a way, that type of meditation is easier, at least for me, than the mindfulness of being present as I walk through the day. As I get up, as I get dressed, I figure out what I'm going to eat, make sure my son is taken off now that he's driving to school. If I'm going to work, if I'm working from home, right, I'm just like in that little hamster wheel that someone was talking about, right? That's where the mindfulness is hard, right? So I wanted to kind of steer away from the term meditation in this music and movement experiential. That's what I'm going to call it. Some of the training I have accrued over the years is sound therapy, and also when I was doing my master's in expressive arts therapy, there was a sub-cohort that were getting their specialization in dance movement therapy. And oh God, I just envied them so much. They were talking about the Laban or Laban, depending on how you pronounce it, where we have quadrants all around this, and that you can study somebody's body movement, and depending on how they move through space, you can analyze if they're in the upper left or the lower right quadrant, right? And I was just like drooling, just listening to them talk about it. It was fascinating. You may have heard about the polyvagal theory, the body keeps a score, where finally, when I say we, modern medical and psychotherapeutic science is finally realizing what the ancients have known for a long time, that we carry our memories in our cells of our body. There's no separation between our emotions and our mental state and our physical state. So now they're realizing, wow, trauma and emotions are carried in our cells. Who knew? The vagus nerve, who knew? Well, a lot of people kind of knew. The ancient ones knew. But that we carry our emotions in our bodies, right? That's just a scientific fact. It can be reflected in muscle tension. It can be reflected in an increase of heart rate. It increases respiration, more shallow respiration. So what we're going to do, and our fabulous Jal is going to musically guide us on this journey. We're going to listen to 3 pieces of music that he's going to channel for us. The first piece is just a centering piece. It's a light piece, helping us kind of let go as if we're evaporating the stresses of the world, just to get us centered. Then there's going to be the second movement. That's going to be the work piece. Now, there's a lot of associations with that term work. But this is going to, and it's unique, whatever you may need to work through. Maybe it's just what you went through today, or just getting through the week, right? But there's a little bit more tension, there's a little bit more space to have, maybe in the Yisrael metaphor, that wrestling, right? That wrestling, whether it's with your boss, or the dishes that are still in the sink, or whatever it may be, right? Maybe it's just something that you need to work through. And then we'll have the third movement, which is going to help us ground ourselves again. Now, I mentioned this is music and movement, and that can be something unique to each one of us. For those of you watching us at home, you can just take a step back from the screen, maybe clear the coffee table, the chairs, whatever may be around you, so that you can have room to move through space, whatever comes through you and whatever you're absorbing from the sound that Joel is going to provide us. In the sanctuary here, you can find a space. The camera will only be on Joel, so if you want to come up to the space in the front, we will not stream that. You're fine. You can be in the middle aisle, in the side aisle, any space that you want to do. If you want to just sit where you are, but maybe you want a little bit more space, you may want to sit in some of the chairs that have room on either side so you don't elbow the person next to you. And if the movement is internal and you just want to be still physically but move internally, that is also fine with you. But take this as an opportunity for music as medicine, and to pay homage to your physical body and integrate the sound, integrate the movement, and let whatever you need to work through you. think I need to exhale. We're now going to go into the Amidah. We're going to turn to page 8, and I will move over there. Please rise. We'll say the Adonai Sfatai, we'll chant it, and then we will chant the Amidah together. Adonai Sfatai Tivtach, Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Eternal One, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai Sfatai Tivtach Ufi Yagi Tehilah Tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Leah v'Elohei Rachel Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Lifnei V'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei Hakol Atah Rav lehoshia Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofech Olim Umatir
asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umidome lach, melech memit umachaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol.
Please be seated.
We had talked about doing this at the end of Amidah, but I forgot to ask where you were ending the Amidah. So that's on me. Okay. Hi, I'm Joshua Harris. I'm a member of the Bet Aleph board and a Torah enthusiast. I spent my formative years sitting in the back row at Hebrew class, and yet somehow later in life found myself drawn to all the different ways you can study Torah. So I definitely had a lot of ideas for this Devar that then, once I started researching, I realized were wrong. So that was a setback. Also, I didn't know that Russian Doll was coming back, so I didn't have as much time as I probably should have. Mostly, I haven't read this, so there's probably going to be a sentence that just cuts off, and we'll see where that goes. So this week finds us coming close to the end of the book of Leviticus. The portion is Bahar, which means in mountain, which is how you say on mountain in Hebrew. So this portion pertains to the Shemitah and the Jubilee. So every 7 years, the land is supposed to be rested. You're not supposed to plant anything or trim or harvest. You don't work the land in any way. And God will provide enough produce in the year previous that you'll be able to live off of that. So when you look back in human history, I mean, you can see just time and time again where overworking the land and has caused crop failure and famine, and this is really an interesting way of forcing the Israelites to actually acknowledge that you need to stop doing these things. This is probably the earliest documentation of sustainable farming practices when you think about it. And you know, the necessity of rest for the human body gets discussed a lot in the Torah, but this idea is really radical that you would just allow the land to rest. I do want to point out there is a interfaith climate action presentation on Sunday on Zoom that I know very little about, but it is about the Shemitah Project Northwest. So check the newsletter for more information about that. So after these 7-year cycles comes the Jubilee year, which is where all the slaves would be freed and all the land that has been purchased from anybody would be returned to its original owner. By making servitude and land ownership impermanent, these laws eliminate the ability to generate intergenerational wealth. I mean, once in a generation, everything is going to reset. So from a modern perspective, we can see really how transformative this would be on a society. Now, unlike Rabbi Olivier, I am not going to tell you that this is my favorite Torah portion. I'm not really sure that I have one, to be honest, but this one is also really agricultural in nature, and I have a rough track history with plants, so if I was in an agrarian society, I would have starved to death a long time ago. So I got more interested in looking at the language and seeing what little pieces I could dig up. So one of the things that I found really interesting was one of the verses about the specificity of how the Jubilee is to be followed. So from 25:23, this is God talking to Moses and giving instructions to give to the Israelites. But the land must not be sold beyond reclaim, for the land is mine. You are but strangers resident with me. This is very different from everything else God says about the land to everybody else, including Moses. I mean, God says that it is a gift to Abraham. God says that the land is a gift to Isaac. God says that it is a gift to Jacob. Jacob says to Joseph that it is a gift from God. God tells Moses in Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and elsewhere in Leviticus that the land is to be given to the Israelite people. So this exact phrase, ki li haaretz, because the land is mine, does not appear anywhere else in scriptures. There's a similar phrase, ki li kol haaretz, all the earth is mine, but because of aretz being both earth and land, it's actually talking more about how the whole planet is God's rather than the land. But this is very much about the land itself, Eretz Yisrael. So I find this really interesting because God is maintaining ownership of the land in this and is putting a stipulation on the gift. Basically, God is acting as a landlord. And by not giving the land to anyone, but saying that it's only a gift if you follow these rules, it becomes very interesting when you realize that we're not 100% sure, but definitely, at least since the lost tribes disappeared, the Jubilee has not been followed. And it's unclear if it was ever actually followed at all. And our sages put forth in the Talmud the idea that the destruction of the temple and the Babylonian exile came about because people were not following the Shemitah years. And so there was a year of exile for every Shemitah that was missed. So I didn't land that, I'll be honest. That was where that thought ends. Sorry about that. The other thing I got into was just looking at some of the language on a very granular level that I found very beautiful and poetic. So in 25:3 and 4, and again, this is God giving instructions for Moses to give to the Israelites. 6 years may you sow your field, and 6 years may you prune your vineyard and gather the yield. But in the 7th year you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, a Sabbath of Hashem. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. Now, maybe again, this is my agricultural naivete, but sowing and pruning strike me as odd choices for your verbs here. If the year begins at Rosh Hashanah, then you're going to be harvesting before you're sowing anything. And a great deal of work, and even if you are starting the year at the beginning of this growing season, there's still a lot of things that are going to happen before you'd spread seeds. I mean, you'd be plowing, you'd be watering, you'd be weeding. So this made me really want to get into what these words are. So looking at the Hebrew, it's Sheish Shanim Tizra Sadecha, 6 years may you sow your field, V'Sheish Shanim Tizmor Karmecha, and 6 years may you prune your vineyard. So I really like how this verse starts with 3 shins all in a row, which I think looks cool, first of all, and also it's fun to say, Sheish Shanim. I recommend saying that if you haven't tried it. And where it really gets poetic is when you start looking at the roots. So to sow is Zayin Resh Ayin, and to prune is Zayin Mem Resh. So they both start with the same letter, and they both have a resh in them, so they end up sounding very similar to each other. And the verb form here is second person masculine singular imperfect in the call binyan, for all you grammar heads. So that means that this is God saying you personally are responsible for these things. You need to be doing this in the 6 years and not doing this in the 7th year. You personally. So because of that, then the form I feel sort of emphasizes the similarity of the sounds even more. So it's tizra and tizmor, tizra and tizmor. And one of the really fun things about getting granular with the language is that because the Bible is a finite text, and it's one that a lot of people have been looking at really hard for a long time, when you crack open a biblical dictionary, it's going to tell you where the words show up, and what words are really common and what words are pretty rare. So Zayin Resh Ayin to sow crops up reasonably frequently. It's not a super common word, but it shows up. And usually it's about planting seeds in the farming context like this, but it also can be a sexual euphemism or a reference to offspring. But Zayin Mem Resh, to prune, is odd. It only appears one other time, and it's always with the same noun, kerem, the vine. So the verb form is very rare. The noun form of it shows up a little bit more, but still it's a relatively rare root. But it does show up in what is probably one of my all-time favorite verses, which is Isaiah 2:4. V'chit harvotam letim v'hartehem lematzmerot. Sorry, my font got all messed up there. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, which of course follows up with Lo yisagoy el goy cherev v'lo yimedu od milchama. Nation shall not take up sword against nation, and they shall never again know war. And it's really hard to think of a more restful state for the earth than the pursuit of peace above all else. And that would truly be a jubilee for all ages. And while I mentioned that Zayin Mem Resh is a rare, meaning to prune, is a rare root, it's one of those words that actually is multiple roots that mean different things. Never really figured out why that is, but that's how Hebrew works. So it does actually have a much more common word, which is, it means to make music. And while I usually think of this as a Havdalah jam, I did ask Diana if we could sing Lo Yisagoy from my favorite Isaiah verse, and Jal has already busted out the Havdalah jams by doing Eliyahu Hanavi earlier, so I feel a lot less isolated in that request. So I'm going to ask you to all turn to your Zimrot, Zayin Mem Resh, section of your prayer book, and on page 25 you will find Lo Yisagoy, and I will get far away from this microphone where you won't hear me.
Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Lo yisagoy el goy el chereb, lo yimedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy chereb, lo yimedu od milchama. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
Just before you start, go ahead and get settled. I was thinking about what Joshua was saying and the connection to a nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Think about the sword that we are lifting up against the earth. And if we stop fighting each other, maybe the earth can actually start to heal.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carol Grant, and I'm a Beit Aleph member. And I so appreciate this community and what it offers. I'm going to be leading. Sorry. I'm Carol Grant, and I'm a member of the Beit Aleph community, and I so appreciate what this community offers. It's very rare, and it's I'm just very grateful for it. And what I'm doing is leading the meditation. So I'm going to start with a little kind of introduction. And in Judaism, life is breath. So I want you to settle in, and we'll take a couple of breaths. I don't know if the lights can come down. Oh, okay, sorry. So what I want you to do is go ahead and maybe have your arms in front of you, like at shoulder level, and take them any amount up as you inhale, and then down as you exhale. And ground in. And one more time, inhale, and then exhale. The heart is always the place to go. Go home into your heart, where there's warmth, appreciation, gratitude, and contentment. Now close your eyes, find your breath, and please join me in a shalom chant, calling up energies of peace and well-being, wholeheartedness. And we will sit in silence. Now, as we come to the close of this meditation, you might want to take a deeper breath, and then when you're ready, open your eyes. My experience is what I agree to attend to. Now, please join me in a closing shalom chant, dedicating this meditation to all those who are in need of energies of healing and peace. Take a breath for shalom. Now I'm going to read the names on our healing list. Hillary Wilson, Craig Wilson, David Mark, Susan Austin, Katie Margaret Bank, Lynn Carroll, Eileen Wellens, Alan Walton, Arlene Ross, Janine Lewine, Pam Lesner, Michael Hall, Steve Lucas, Elliot Applebaum, Jerry Petititz, Lawrence Stern, Dorinda Regan, Elaine Lees, Janet Crowley, Zohaya Young, Celia Curran, Michael Burkhart, Dagan Diaz-Creer, Russell Waldy, Salim Matt Grass, Judy Lundquist, Jerry and Rona Sanderson, Stewie Ehrlich, Denny Oswald, James Mahar, Herb McDonald, Trevor Dolan, Edward Mosshart, Danita Simon, Shoshana Kaufman McDonald, Ken Carr, Ed Hoffman, Terry Woodland, Darlene Reagan, Katie Berry Batlari, Stan Sims, Alan White, Elizabeth Heath, and Kate Elias.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Mishaberach Imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah veRachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well. Bless us with a vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mishaberach Avotenu, Mishaberach Imotenu. Hear our prayer, 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 and bless us
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. For those who do not know me yet, my name is Celia. I am honored to be a musician alongside Diana Rose. I've been with Bet Olive since 2009, long time. And in that time, one of my prayers is we like to kind of, Diana likes to divvy some of the prayers up for the High Holy Days to make sure that everyone's, beautiful voices all get to be heard. And so one of my prayers is the Aleinu. So I thought it would be, kind of fun to lead it tonight. And it's funny, I've had so much going on with the move and my injury and everything that I signed up for it, and then like Josh, a lot of stuff happens. Russian doll happened, moving happened. And so, didn't really think about it, and then was thinking about it today. And one of the things that struck me about whenever I do the Aleinu, whether it's at Shabbat services or for High Holy Days, I always have my words in front of me. Even though I've been saying and singing this prayer since I was 8, as I also grew up in the Reform Jewish community, and I'm very familiar with what Claire was talking about earlier, and sung, in fact, the community that I grew up in sung it almost exactly the way we sing it here. And yet I still find myself needing to come back to the words. And I thought about maybe that is in some way a calling to me to remember to take it in and read it like it's the first time, every time. So in that, let us rise for the Aleinu. We will start with the English first. We are the ones given this way of praising the Holy One of all being, that we might understand and express the greatness of the one who shapes all creation. We celebrate our uniqueness and that of others, and seek to discover the wonder that we are. Therefore, we bend the knees, we bow, and we proclaim our gratitude before the ruler of all rulers, the Holy One of all being. As it is said, then we shall truly realize the Eternal One as universal being, and on that day, the unity of being shall be celebrated by all. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, lateit gedula liotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
And as we move into the mourner's Kaddish, I am going to read the names of individuals that are connected energetically to members of our community. I'm going to start with those who have passed in recent days and weeks. And there's a number of pages here, so I want to make sure I get it just right. So, Donald Meadow, father of Janice Meadow. Leah Vetter, friend of Kate Elias. Simon Garcia, friend of Jerry Dean. Thomas Might, friend's brother of Kalish Leville. I'm also going to list the names of people who have made their transition within the past year. Janet Koloff, Roberta Allure, Sam Gerzonowitz, Harry Loffer, Pauline Morris, Daniel Glosser, Michael Spiegel, Chris Warner Mochel, Dan Benson, Donna Marie Harris, Jerry Sutton, Lillian Denker, Francesca Tolchin, Jaden Johannes, Patrick Henelt, Stephen Wayne, Mike Levin, Jean Warner, Willard Harlow, Elizabeth Egan, Gilbert Feldman, Levy Cohen, Ruth Veldy Cohen, Marshall Hartman, Murray Gordon, Ted Kuwana, Sylvia Singer, Vicki Brose, Michael Stern, Phyllis Levin, Marion Meisinger, Leonard Shaw, Dr. Joan Margaret, Dr. Murray Molican, Robert Platter, and those whose yahrzeit we honor this evening, Anna Gilbert Tansman and Eva Busby. And we also just tune into those people who have left their footprints on our hearts throughout our lives and whose energies we honor as we say the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divara chirutei v'yamlich machutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaser, V'yet hadar, v'yet ale, v'yet halal, shemeda kutsha berechu. Le'ela min kol birchata, v'shirata, tushbechata, v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael ve'akol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. And the bottom of the page, may the one who creates harmony above make peace for us, for all the households of Israel, and for all the peoples of the world. And let us say, Amen. Right now, we're going to have our helpers pass out the bits of challah, wine or juice, while I share a few quick announcements. And yes, you may be seated. First of all, I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Diana Rose, the music director, vocalist, and percussionist at Beit Aleph. I joined Beit Aleph 1999, 2000. And as of next Shabbat, I will have been the music director 10 years. June 6th. So I'll be lighting candles for that next time around. I will defer to our website for upcoming activities. I do know that there is an annual meeting coming up in June. Melissa, help me, is it June 26th? 26th. You should be up here doing the announcements, really. She's probably dreams about it in her head and ruminating all night. We also have an annual picnic coming up. And we have an app. Did you know we have an app? There's an app for that, right? Isn't that the cliche? There's an app for that? Well, there's an app for us. We are still working out the kinks. We would love your feedback. Google Play, iTunes, download it. You can get notifications. You can stream on the app. So we would love for you to download it. And then please feel free to email feedback, what you like, what you think could work better. administrator@bailolive.org. That's Melissa's email. So your inbox is going to be even fuller than usual. It's always full. But anyway, and I just want to say very, very grateful for Melissa. She is the mortar between the bricks, and she keeps things standing upright. So, all right. I should probably get that, yes.
My turn again. So before we start with the Kiddush, I just want to say a personal thank you to all the people that have shared with us tonight. It has just been an absolute delight. You have made this Shabbat. It's like, we love Olivier, but sometimes it's nice when he goes away that we get to hear other voices and have other contemplative thoughts and get to hear other perspectives. So thank you so much for sharing the wealth of your gifts with us tonight. So everybody's got their challah, everybody's got their wine. We will start with the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zicharon lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yon techila lemikrae kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta michol amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim. No, it's good. I guess it does. A little spicy.
Sam, is this your challah?
Smells like it. So, as a singer, this is one of my favorite prayers to look forward to because it means not only is it the end of the service, because we've been working hard, but that I get to eat Sam's delicious challah because I'm typically hungry by the end of the service. And it's funny, so I did have a thing to say about the hamotzi because, again, this is a prayer I've known since I was a kid, and sometimes it takes all my willpower to not start out with hamotzi lechem min haaretz and do the we give thanks to God for bread. So just for funsies, let's do that tonight, shall we? Yeah. Y'all, do you guys know this one? You got a couple? All right. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in happy chorus as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Nom, nom, nom. Thank you, guys.
And I believe we have one more song.
Oh, yeah, right?
We'll go over here.
Excuse us for a moment.
The traveling musicians. All right, so we're going to close with Havenu Shalom Aleichem. It is on page 22, and this is a stand-up song. And if you feel like moving and clapping, please, by all means. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Shabbat Shalom.